any sugar at all, and you'll be able to tell the quality and the good taste of tea. Let's now talk about the good stuff, and one of the best things you can have is fiber. Consume more of it. Fiber helps you to digest carbohydrates. It also helps keep your bowel clean because it washes it out. So fiber is what you need to include, and there's so many sources of fiber. Boiled maize, things like domas, ngwashe, all these natural and processed foods will give you a lot of fiber, which will be very helpful. It is not expensive to be healthy. Supplements are only recommended under a doctor's prescription, and if you really need it, maybe if you have a serious deficiency in something and you need to top up as quickly as possible, that's the time you can take supplements. Otherwise, stick to your balanced diet, a healthy diet, because remember, every morsel of food that gets into your mouth and gets into your system can and will affect the longevity and the quality of your life. This has been Self-Care Tips on Health and Nutrition.
After the dust settled on rigorous campaigns, Kenyans are waiting for elected leaders to deliver on their pledges.
To have clean, accessible drinking water across the county.
The hustle of everyday Kenyans is encouraged and rewarded.
Operationalizing Kerogoya Level 5 Hospital.
A functioning school feeding program.
But how have the leaders performed so far?
The percentage of AIDS in 2021 were more than those ones in 2022.
We will not politicize security, because if we do so, we endanger the country.
Every week, we bring you an honest assessment of the national and county governments.
One of the best ways of accelerating national development is through collaboration with county governments.
The Scorecard, coming soon on KBC Channel 1.
Hello, Reynaldo. What are you doing here? And who is this woman with you?
She's an old friend, and I just found her in the town square by sheer chance.
Is that so? In the town square?
She's only visiting for a few weeks. I just ran into her, but I'm leaving now.
Amparo, the most important thing is to know what you feel for Reynaldo, because if you don't really love him, then life's too short to spend your life with someone you could never love.
Irazaba doesn't even have the slightest opportunity to go against me, since he doesn't have any proof yet. On the other hand, why don't you forget about everything about this case and work in my company? Well, what do you say? Do you accept it?
You're both imbeciles.
Fabiola, we have to talk.
Question we are asking, could increased heat have an impact on our mental health?
There is not a causality as it were, but it can aggravate.
Is it possible for suicide cases to also increase at a time like this?
When this person is withdrawn and they are seeing life is getting hopeless, their health is declining, they are feeling so uncomfortable. They actually think of a way of escaping from the one, and that's how suicide comes in.
Kupata kumpenda mtu kama sikiza tune kwenye simu yako, bonyeza *812 *501#.
Mapenzi si kumpenda mtu kwa kuwa amekamilika, kwani nawe pia una mapungufu yako. Kwa hivyo mapenzi ni kumpenda mtu na mapungufu yake.
Kupata kumpenda mtu, bonyeza *812 *501#. *812 *501#.
Good evening and welcome to the Legends edition on KBC Channel 1. I am Fayazz Qureshi. Stay tuned for our Living Legends segment. Tonight we speak to veteran musician Freshle Mwamburi. Our sign language interpreter for tonight's edition is Lucy Mwara. But first, a quick look at the highlights for tonight's bulletin. Political power plays, national politics takes center stage during the burial ceremony of the late Willis Opio Otondi in Kisumu. Engineering a change of mindset. Kenyans challenged to seek services of certified engineers as the world marked World Engineers Day. And fading dreams. We highlight the plight of learners in Kajiado County as the effects of drought continue to bite. Welcome back. 2 people have been killed in Elgeyo Marakwet amid the ongoing security operation in banditry-prone areas of North Rift. It is reported that a middle-aged man was killed in Chesongoch, while another old man was killed on Saturday morning in an attack that happened 200 meters from a Kenya Defense Forces camp.
Tension is still high in banditry-prone areas of North Rift after 2 people lost their lives in Elgeyo Marakwet at the hands of bandits. This comes just after 6 other people were killed in Kerio Valley this week, including 2 who were gunned down on Friday.
Tunataka kuona hao askari ndani ya tiati. Tuone thought ndio watu wetu waweze kuishi kwa amani. Maana yake tunaambiwa tu tunaona kwamba kweli military wameenda. Tunaona polisi wako pale, lakini mbona hii inaendelea?
It is reported that a middle-aged man was killed in Chesongoch while another one was killed on Saturday morning. Leaders from Elgeyo Marakwet, led by area Governor Wesley Rotich, decried the rising cases of insecurity in the area, despite the heavy presence of the security personnel deployed to restore sanity.
Kuna haja tuumize watu wetu waishi kama umbwa, alafu wanaishi msituni, watoto wanateseka, shule hakuna. Two secondary school wamesikia juzi risasi mtu akawao 100 meters from the school. Leo 200 meters from the school mwingine anawao. Sasa hao watoto watakuwa wanasoma namna gani?
3 weeks ago, the CS Interior and the CS Defense wrote and they deployed security officers in Kiribale. I don't know whether they deployed also in Tiati constituency, but it's unfortunate 3 weeks down the line, we continue losing lives.
He said over 100 people have lost their lives in the past 6 months, even as he called on the government to intervene by quelling banditry in the region.
So sisi tunataka kuona hiyo operation ikifanyika, hii bandits wanyang'anywe bunduki sote ndio watu wetu waishi kwa amani.
Meanwhile, Tiati Member of Parliament William Kamket has called on the government to review the curfew imposed in areas which have been declared disturbed and dangerous. He said the curfew imposed in areas such as Chemolingot, Kolowa, Toglu Bay and Kapsawar has affected innocent people who cannot carry out their business. For Legends Edition.
The newly installed United Democratic Alliance Secretary General Cleophas Malala now wants all parties that form the Kenya Kwanza Alliance to fold up into one political outfit. According to Malala, Kenya Kwanza constituent parties cannot continue in their current status and must dissolve and join the party that sponsored William Ruto into presidency, UDA.
Speaking in Kisumu during the registration of new members to the United Democratic Alliance, Malala called on parties in the alliance to fold up and join President Ruto's UDA party for administration and coordination purposes.
Wale mandugu zetu ambao tuko Kenya Kwanza, tukue tayari kuvunja hivyo vyama tuingie ndani ya UDA, tuunde chama kubwa katika Kenya hii na Afrika mzima, twende mbele. Tuunde chama kama ANC, African National Congress. Tuunde chama kama ile ya China. Tuunde chama kama ya CCM kule Tanzania. Time is up. We can only have one party leader at a time.
During the raid into the opposition stronghold, Malala and fellow leaders faulted the opposition over the incessant threat of mass action and the high cost of living.
Jameni, msiwe na wasiwasi. Maisha inaenda kushuka chini. Msiambiwe ati mwende maandamano. Nyinyi watu wa Nyanza mmekuwa nje ya serikali tangu tupate uhuru wa Kenya. Kila wakati mko nje ya serikali.
This as opposition leaders challenge the government to fulfill its pledge to lower the cost of living, as well as clarify issues revolving around the competence-based curriculum.
They promised us that they are going to reduce the prices of food after 100 days. 100 days are over. Is the food prices down? Instead, it's going up. They are telling us people will not pay fees. Right now, if you take your child to school, there are the panya routes.
It will be a contradiction kwa wewe headmaster kumfukuza mtoto. Wakati tumeambiwa na serikali kwa watoto waende shule 100%. Kwa hivyo tunawaomba ma headmaster, na juzi tuliwaambia kwamba msifukuze watoto mpaka tutakapoona kwamba CDF imekwisha. So, kwa sababu wengi wanafukuzwa shule sasa kwa mambo ya lunch na mambo ya pesa nyingine ndogo ndogo ambazo sio za msingi zaidi kuliko mtoto kukosa masomo.
Meanwhile, National Assembly Minority Leader Opiyo Wandayi now wants the government to stop burdening Kenyans with unconstitutional offices that gobble public funds, leaving nothing for development.
It is shameful that somebody can wake up and imagine that is creating a position of so-called what? It's called at the office of the spouse of Prime Cabinet Secretary. Useless. It is a total waste of public money. And if they go ahead, if they don't stop that practice, which is illegal and unconstitutional, I will be raising the issue in Parliament.
In Kiambu County, leaders want the county boss to fulfill his political pledges. Failure to which an impeachment motion will be tabled at the county assembly. The leaders who decried of a poor state of medical services want Governor Wamatangi to prioritize healthcare.
Kuwa akicheza mchezo ya PR, public relations. Hapa kusema, unajua, ninafanya hivi, anafanya nini na tuja faulu. I am now talking to Wamatangi. Governor wangu, you are my friend. Lakini ukifanya kazi ambayo hatukusikizana, lazima nikwambie ukweli. A true friend is a friend who tells you the truth. This is the truth, Wamatangi. You have failed.
For Legends Edition, I'm Gladys Mungai.
National politics dominated the burial ceremony of Luo Council elder Willis Opiyo Otondi, who was laid to rest at his Nyahera home in Kisumu County. Opposition Chief Raila Odinga used the podium to revive his push for the government to institute far-reaching electoral reforms and reduce the cost of living. The ODM leader maintained he will mobilize his supporters to hold countrywide demonstrations should the government fail to act.
These were the scenes in Nyahera village, Kisumu West constituency. Hundreds thronged the home of the late Ker Willis Otondi. The elder's burial ceremony was conducted in a manner befitting a man of his stature, according to the Luo customs. The burial attracted mourners from as far as Central African Republic, South Sudan, Tanzania, and Uganda.
But what is not known about the Luos of Kenya here, because I saw you talking about the Badola. The Luos of Kenya here is a hybrid group here. The first group of Luos who came to this place here are called the Joke Group. The Joke Group came from the Acholi. There they're known as the Pajok, along the Uganda-Sudan border. The second group that came over 200 years later came from the Padola.
He was eulogized as a unifying factor in the region.
And Pierre Tondi became a propagator, and he has been able to move with the Luo community from that time up to this time. We have gone through very difficult situations, but he became a pillar. He became a pillar, and all the times with their problems, he would convene a meeting for people to consult.
Namjua kwa sababu yeye alikuwa anapenda umoja. He was at the forefront of looking for the unity, the peace and harmony between Kikuyus and Luos, and I know between Luos and many other communities. Now what touched me most, lile niligusa zaidi, ni kwamba even at his old age, while he was still ailing, he traveled to Nyeri, he traveled to Kiambu, he came to Nairobi, he met teams of councils of elders trying to ensure that the mischief, the mistrust that existed between Kikuyus and Luos back from 1960s was demystified.
Until his demise, Otondi served as the chair of the revered Luo Council of Elders that has in the past been led by renowned elders such as the late Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, Paul Mboya, among others. And as is synonymous with the Kenyan politicians, they would find space to speak on national issues.
He said, ya kwamba akichukua uskani bei ya unga itaenda chini. Lakini sasa anasema ngojeni miezi 3-6 ndio bei ya unga itakuja chini. Na mumeona wazee kutoka Luhya community wamekuwa hapa. Simuliwaona? Na wale viongozi wengine mjue ya kwamba Western tuko nyuma ya Raila Amolo Odinga. Na mliona zile kura Raila alipata kule Western. Tangu aanze kusimama kiti ya urais, Moi ndiye alimshinda 97 peke yake.
Opposition leader Raila Odinga, addressing the mourners, maintained he will not relent in his push for the government to bring down the cost of living and ensure electoral reforms. Odinga maintained he will make good his threat to mobilize Kenyans to the streets should the government fail to address the concerns.
And those who stood with Azimio, all of us together, Your Excellency, we are looking upon you now to deliver us. Na watu wako nyuma yako, wewe piga filimbi masiku ile utapiga, tutakuwa pale utasema tuwe, mimi nitakuja na sufuria kuoga kusema kuna jaa kwa sababu Kenya nzima kuna jaa.
Odinga is advocating for sweeping electoral reforms to ensure fair and credible elections in the future. The late Otondi, a former provincial administrator, leaves behind a widow, 6 children and several grandchildren. Achola Simon, Legends Edition, Kisumu County.
Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua says 6 billion shillings meant for COVID-19 response was embezzled from the public coffers. The DP says senior government officials in the previous regime took the money and transported it in carton boxes before stashing it in their homes. At the same time, he says the funds were looted in the period leading up to the August 2022 election and a few hours to the Supreme Court ruling that validated the win of President William Ruto. Gachagua made the statement in Nyeri during a meeting with professionals from Tetu constituency.
It was stolen from COVID when people are dying. 2 days before the elections, they stole 6 billion and pretended to sell some shares from Telco. When there was a case before Supreme Court, they stole another 10 billion, purportedly to pay some contractors. Money was being brought in cartons at Wilson Airport and flown with choppers to people's homes.
It's time for a quick break. We'll be back in a short while. Stay with us.
Unajua siku hizi wateja wanatulipa na simu sana sana. Na hiyo si shida, hiyo ni poa sana by the way. Lakini sasa shida inatokea, wengine wetu wanachukua hizo namba za wateja, alafu wanaanza kugawana huku nje kama njugu. Bana, inatuharibia kazi.
In this digital era, it's normal to collect information for your client. But if you're collecting information for the client, it's important that you secure it and use it for the intended purpose.
Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwako na ofisi ya Data Protection Commissioner.
Kupata maisha kama sikiza tune yako, bonyeza *811 *816#.
Maisha ni mafupi, hivyo si vyema kumaliza muda mwingi katika malumbano. Hesabu baraka zako, wathamini rafiki zako na tabasamu ili udumishe amani.
Kupata maisha, bonyeza *811 *816#. *811 *816#.
Jumapili hii kwenye runinga ya KBC, ungana naye Askofu Michael Wanderi wa kanisa la Christian Foundation Fellowship Kiambu kuanzia saa 1 hadi saa 2 asubuhi.
Ningetaka nikwambie, our Jehovah God, because the Bible says he is the same yesterday, today and forevermore. He is able to take you to a place of abundance. He is able to take you to Rehoboth in the name of Jesus Christ.
Kipindi ni neno la neema, ukiletewa naye Askofu Michael Wanderi wa kanisa la Christian Foundation Fellowship Kiambu. Usikose.
After the dust settled on rigorous campaigns, Kenyans are waiting for elected leaders to deliver on their pledges.
To have clean, accessible drinking water across the county.
The hustle of everyday Kenyans is encouraged and rewarded.
Operationalizing Kerugoya Level 5 Hospital.
A functioning program.
But how have the leaders performed so far?
The percentage of AIDS in 2021 were more than those ones in 2022.
We will not politicize security, because if we do so, we endanger the country.
Every week, we bring you an honest assessment of the national and county governments.
One of the best ways of accelerating national development is through collaboration with county governments.
The Scorecard, coming soon on KBC Channel 1.
Welcome back. Kenyans have been challenged to seek the services of certified and licensed engineers during the designing and construction of various projects in order to avoid cases of buildings collapsing. Speaking during separate events to commemorate a World Engineering Day, engineers said it is saddening to see people lose lives when buildings or bridges collapse due to the involved masquerading as engineers. The theme for this year's celebration is engineering innovation for a more resilient world.
Engineers from across the country came together to mark World Engineering Day. The event comes at a time when the country has reported cases of collapsed buildings that have not only led to the destruction of property, but the loss of lives. Speaking during the World Engineering Day here in Nairobi, engineers said that innovation and digitization through technology will aid in professionalism in the sector at a time when challenges of safety and structures being put up continue to emerge.
You find that engineers offer various solutions to the issues that face us. And in today's celebrations, the theme is innovation for a resilient world. You know, there is climatic change. We are facing so many other problems in this country, and we have to be resilient. So we have to get various ways and means.
Our contribution to society is so immense, not very vocal, Most of the time we are very busy working, we are thinking, coming up with solutions, and we are continuously innovating. How can we make the world society a better place for you and I to live in?
We know that we have to innovate more in ideas, in new technologies, in new materials, and in many ways of doing engineering work, so that we can also bring the cost of being our business low and be competitive to the rest of the world.
The World Engineering Day in Kenya saw the day marked with a procession followed by tree planting, which also culminated into the launch of the African Journal of Engineering Research and Innovation, AJERI.
The functions of the newsletter is to inform ourselves of the day-to-day goings on in IEK and in the engineering fraternity in Kenya and elsewhere.
According to the Engineering Board of Kenya, EBK, of the more than 20,000 registered engineers in the country, only 5% are consulting engineers, with the remaining being graduates. In an effort to bridge the shortage of engineering consultants, the EBK board is planning to increase the number of professionals to about 10,000 by 2027, in line with the UNESCO requirements.
We are 3,000, we should be 3,000 professional engineers, we should be at 10,000, and we are working very closely with the institution and the government so that we can bring that number to 10,000 so that we can serve the population very well.
In Eldoret, engineers called on Kenyans to seek the services of certified and licensed engineers during the designing and construction of various projects in order to avoid cases of buildings collapsing. On his part, Osingishu Deputy Governor Engineer John Barorot said successes of the sector can only be achieved using collaborative efforts.
Engineers, we have the best engineers in the world. Sometimes we need to ensure that policy. We need to come up with clear policies that some of these approvals have actually been done by engineers.
On this day, there is also added focus on engineering as a discipline and how to get future generations interested in the profession.
Right, we have an update from Kenya Power on the nationwide power outage. And their statement says, "We are glad to report that we have restored power supply to parts of Eldoret, Kisumu and Nakuru. We are working to restore normalcy in other areas as soon as possible." Initial reports indicate that the outage was caused by a fault that occurred on the Suswa-Loyangalani high-voltage power transmission line. And they say, "We thank our customers for their patience as we continue with the restoration exercise." Another update will be issued in due course. Right, moving on to our stories for tonight's bulletin. A significant number of learners in Kajiado County have not reported to school due to the ongoing drought. Among the learners is 17-year-old Esther Wang. 56 marks in the 2022 Kenya Certificate of Primary Education Examination. Esther's mother was arrested and jailed for 3 years after being found with game meat due to the ongoing famine, curtailing Esther's journey to proceed to high school. Her story is no different with that of Miriam Jambi, who now has a swollen leg due to walking long distances looking for assistance to go to school with a dream of one day being a lawyer. Sarafina Robi with the details.
17-year-old Esther Wango's dream of joining high school is slowly fading away. She now stays with her brother at home, doing house chores and hoping one day luck will come knocking and revive her dream of joining the high school she was placed to.
Lakini mtu sema kuchelewa si kukosa kufika, fadhali uchelewe lakini ufike. Maombi yangu tu nichelewe lakini bora tu nifike na niende kuendelea na masomo yangu.
Due to the ongoing drought, her mother will find herself in the business of game meat. The mother was then arrested, tried and jailed for 3 years at the Kajiado prisons where we visited her. On learning of her mother's imprisonment, Esther says this greatly affected her performance in school.
Nilishikwa na stress. Mimi max yangu ilikuwa 356 but sikuweza kufikisha juu nilikuwa na mawazo mengi. Sikuwa naweza kukaa kwa amani, kwa furaha. I could not think about anything. Yani naona tu kama maisha yangu ifika mwisho, siwezi endelea na masomo.
She becomes emotional when she remembers most of her friends have reported to school leaving her at home.
Sina mzazi, sina baba, sina mama. Babangu alikufa hata nilikuwa mdogo, sijaimuona, niliambiwa tu alikufa. Sasa sijui hata babangu ni nani. Sijui afanikiwa na nitoshana aje. Sasa mimi naombanga tu Mungu nisome niweze kumsaidia mamangu ili akaweze kuinuka akakuwa mtu mwenye anaweza heshimika, anaweza kuwa mtu wa maana.
With the same predicament is 15-year-old Marin Jambi, who due to walking long distances now has a strained leg.
Nilimaliza class 8. Nikapata 292. Babangu akaniambia, sasa juu unaona hakuna Kenya naweza kufanyia. Sina pesa, sina mbuzi, sina ng'ombe, hakuna Kenya, sina mbele wala nyuma. Nikamwambia basi mimi sipeani juu mimi bado ni mdogo na sijui kwenda kujitegemea kwa mzee.
She says she has been walking for miles. At one point, she was almost defiled.
Tukatembea tu penye tumefika kwa korongo. Akanishukisha, akaniambia fanya kenye utafanya juu hakuna mali sasa mimi nakupeleka. Either unikubalie ama urudi nyumbani.
Jambi scored 292 marks and hopes to one day be a lawyer.
Nikimaliza shule nataka kukuwa lawyer ndio nipiganie haki za wasichana wasiteseke kama mimi.
Her dream will only come true if she gets assistance. So far, a group of widows in Ilbiso has been supporting them but says they're unable to come up with the amount needed to take the girls to school.
Chama imefanya shughuli kidogo ya pads, tissue, hizo vitu ndogo ndogo, lakini school fees sasa imetushinda.
According to World Vision Kenya, the situation is getting worse.
Because yes, we have the drought this time round and even next year, but we know that even if it ends, it will still come back in the future.
We visit the main Ilbiso market where we find a number of parents selling off the remaining livestock at extremely low rates to take their children to school.
Hii ng'ombe kabla kiangazi nilikuwa nauza shilingi 50,000 mpaka 60,000 na sasa nauza 10,000.
For Esther and Jambi, their parents have no livestock left. They hope someone will step in and revive their feeding dreams. Serafina Ruby for Legends Edition.
Over the years, marine biodiversity has been in the balance as human interference threatens the thriving of wildlife. And as the globe marks World Wildlife Day, our wildlife reporter Elvin Kaunda tells us about the importance of marine conservation.
Over 70% of the Earth's surface is made up of water. Our oceans are home to many of the world's most iconic species. It absorbs carbon from the atmosphere and provides the main sources of protein for over 1 billion people. However, plastic pollution, overfishing and illegal animal trade are among the major threats to all these functions. Marine animals, birds and sea creatures are at risk, some to the brink of extinction.
Endangered species, we have a category which is cited at CITES. One of them is turtle. We have got the green turtle, which is endangered.
Like many countries, Kenya has long struggled with plastic waste, which dots its Indian Ocean coast and often abounds in its lakes. In Mombasa, the country's second largest city with some 2 million residents, here over 7,000 tons of plastic leach into bodies of water every year. Local fishermen say plastic pollution in this area is a major issue. It's a waste of time.
Hizi takataka zote hizi zimesababishwa na hizi nyumba ziloko karibu na bahari. Kila mtu akimaliza ikifika jioni anatupa taka majini.
The most visible impacts of plastic debris are the ingestion, suffocation and entanglement of hundreds of marine species as marine wildlife mistake plastic waste for prey and food.
And some of the measures we are taking, including law enforcement, we are working very closely with other security agencies. And in fact, we are working as a multi-agency to curb the menace of illegal trade in wildlife.
The most visible impacts of plastic debris are the ingestion, suffocation, and entanglement of hundreds of marine species as marine wildlife mistake plastic waste for prey and food. In Kwale County, abundant in extensive nesting beaches, communities have embraced turtle conservation initiatives. Fishing is not inherently bad for the ocean until when vessels catch fish faster than stocks can replenish. This is known as overfishing.
We're trying to collect data on turtles around Kisite because a very key aspect in establishing the health of the ecosystem.
The damage done by overfishing goes beyond the marine environment. Concerned welfare and organizations are working hard to tackle the problem by partnering with local and international organizations to bring awareness to the need to protect our oceans and its life.
Up to this point in time, human actions play a major role in the population decline of our marine species. And as the world marks Wildlife Day, it is still our mandate to make sure that their numbers does not reach extinction. Reporting for KBC Channel 1, I'm Alvin Kaunda.
Time for a quick break. Turpi Liambila joins us with the latest in sports, and that's after the break. Stay with us.
Nimesahau kucheza Loto Moto. Usisahau kucheza Loto Moto. Shinda milioni 2 kila siku kwenye M-Pesa. Chagua lipa na M-Pesa. Paybill number 757070. Account number andika neno Loto. Kisha weka star na nambari yako ya simu. Weka kiwango chochote cha pesa kuanzia shilingi 50 hadi 2000.
Aulali.
Lipa kisha subiri draw. Welala. Nitakutimizia ndoto zako. Milioni 2 usiamini. Ujumbe huu umeidhinishwa na BCLB.
After the dust settled on rigorous campaigns, Kenyans are waiting for elected leaders to deliver on their pledges.
To have clean, accessible drinking water across the county.
The hustle of everyday Kenyans is encouraged and rewarded.
Operationalizing Kerogoya Level 5 Hospital.
A functioning school feeding program.
But how have the leaders performed so far?
The percentage of this in 2021 were more than those ones in 2022.
We will not politicize security because if we do so, we endanger the country.
Every week, we bring you an honest assessment of the national and county governments.
One of the best ways of accelerating national development is through collaboration with county government.
The Scorecard, coming soon on KBC Channel 1.
Majina naitwa Sana Munda. Nashukuru sana Joseph Mzee kwa kunisaidia nikafika hapa.
Thank you for being part of Save a Life. Save a Life is the only show that is saving lives, transforming lives. In this week, we are in Taita Taveta. Join me as we save a life in Taita Taveta. Remember, you can also join Save a Life through sending the word Save a Life to 24711. 24711. Thank you for being part of Save a Life.
We are asking, could increased heat have an impact?
Think of a way of escaping from the one, and that's how suicide comes in.
And once again, it's a big welcome to the Legends edition, and this is Sports, and I'm Turpi Liambila. The Kenya Premier League champions Tusker FC have qualified for the last 16 of the 2023 Mozart Cup after thrashing Berlin FC 7-0 in a match played at the Karasarani Annex. The Brewers will now face FC Leopards in the last 16. Leopards defeated Zetek Titans 2-0 in the round of 32 match. In other matches, KCB beat Mofa 1-0 to qualify for the last 16 and will face the winner of tomorrow's match between Marula and Kariobangi Sharks. Ulinzi Stars defeated Kajiado 2-0 while Bidco United drew 0-0 against Lions United. In tomorrow's fixtures, defending champions Gor Mahia, who are seeking to retain the crown and secure a ticket to play in the CAF Confederation Cup next season, will square it out with Kibra Soccer. Scarlet FC will lock horns with Kenya Police in a match that will be broadcast live on KBC, Channel 1 and Radio Taifa in the afternoon.
Goal! Eric Shami. Goal!
Rugby, National Rugby Sevens team Shujaa has been relegated to the classification matches at the ongoing Vancouver Sevens after losing their first two Group C matches. They will face Uruguay tonight in their last group match.
Rugby 7 team Shujaa has been